Pay attention to this footage from the security camera. 1:13 a.m. July 18, 2023, at the entrance to Riverside State Park, Spokane, Washington. The infrared camera mounted on a nearby house's garage captured the exact final 26 seconds that Linda Marlowe was still alive. You see Kayla Marlowe linking arms with her mother, tilting her head to rest on Linda's shoulder as if seeking a moment of peace. Linda gently touches her daughter's cheek, offering a soft smile, a tender, familiar moment that no one could imagine would be followed by tragedy just minutes later. Riker walks a few steps behind, occasionally glancing around as if making sure no one is watching. He opens the trunk, pulls out a black backpack and slings it over his shoulder. Kayla wraps her arm around her mother's waist, gently pulling Linda down the small slope toward the trail. Linda doesn't hesitate. She trusts her daughter completely, her hand still resting on Kayla's back like a habit built over 23 years of love. The three of them turn into the dark of the woods, their figures fading and then disappearing from the camera's view. None of them knew that every movement was being clearly recorded. 6:41 a.m. A jogger calls 911 after discovering a woman's body next to a rock formation more than 60 meters off the trail. It is Linda. The body is in a kneeling position, clothes torn to shreds. The back of the skull is smashed, white bone exposed in the morning light. Around the neck is a deep purple strangulation mark, clearly imprinted with the shape of nylon cord. More than 22 stab wounds on the chest and neck, many piercing the lungs and trachea. Both arms broken backward, evidence that Linda fought until the very last second. A long gash runs from the left cheek down to the jawbone. Along the ground is a drag mark over 12 meters long, mixed with blood, dirt, and Linda's hair. When police retrieved the CCTV footage from the house across the street, they didn't yet know that those 26 seconds would become the key to shattering every lie that Kayla and Evan were about to construct. Ever since her husband died in a traffic accident when Kayla was just 3 years old, Linda Marlowe became a resilient single mother in Spokane. She worked 2 jobs, medical assistant at Providence Holy Family Hospital during the day, then part-time at a local pharmacy in the evenings, all to give her daughter a full childhood. She often said a line that Linda's loved ones still remember: "As long as I have Kayla, I can endure anything." And for more than 20 years, she lived exactly that way, without a single complaint, never letting anyone see her falter. People saw Linda nodding off on the bus after 12-hour shifts, but the moment anyone mentioned Kayla, she would instantly perk up, smile, as if that name alone was her life force. Kayla's childhood was inseparable from the image of that mother. Kayla had severe asthma, with long coughing fits that terrified the little girl, and Linda stayed up night after night placing her hand on her daughter's chest, watching every breath, whispering, "Mom's here, breathe with me, okay?" until Kayla's breathing steadied. Every birthday, rain or shine, Linda took her to Riverside Park, the place she said she watched Kayla grow up with every season of leaves. They walked under the trees, took photos, shared a small cake bought from the nearby shop, like a sacred ritual just for the two of them. Linda taught Kayla to draw, play piano, bake, and never missed a single recital or parent-teacher meeting. When Kayla failed her piano audition in 8th grade and ran out crying, Linda held her close, wiped her tears and said, "You don't need to be the best. Just daring to try is enough for Mom to be proud." By high school, the two looked more like best friends than mother and daughter. They shopped together, cooked together, watched movies in the cozy living room every weekend evening. On winter nights, they curled up under one blanket watching The Blind Side, Kayla's favorite film. Kayla told her mother everything, her first crush, her disappointments, even the nights she felt not good enough and called her mother at midnight just to ask, "Mom, am I doing the right thing?" Linda always answered with the familiar words, "You just need to be you. That's enough." When Kayla had her daughter at age 20, Linda continued to be her shield. She switched shifts, adjusted her schedule, took care of her granddaughter so Kayla could keep attending community college. She split sleep shifts, changed diapers, warmed bottles, and recorded every early milestone of the baby in a small journal she kept in her drawer. On evenings when Kayla came home exhausted, Linda held her granddaughter and told her daughter, "Mom can handle it all. Don't be afraid." Between them there was always a deep bond of love that anyone could see. The two hugged every day, kissed each other's cheeks lightly before Kayla left the house. When tired, Kayla often rested her head on her mother's shoulder like when she was little, and Linda stroked her hair, half teasing, half tender. In Linda's dresser drawer was a stack of letters Kayla wrote from kindergarten through high school. Crayon-smudged papers, short notes about dreams of becoming a designer, all kept by Linda like treasure. To outsiders, their family was a model of warmth and closeness. Neighbors in the Cloverleaf area said they never saw a mother-daughter pair so close. Whenever Linda worked the night shift, Kayla texted, "Mom, remember to bring your jacket." And Linda told coworkers that Kayla is the reason I live, then proudly showed photos of her daughter with simple joy. All of it, the sleepless nights, the forest birthdays, the movie nights, the morning hugs, created a bond that seemed unbreakable. And that's exactly why, for the investigators later, no one could believe that Kayla, the daughter who once called Linda the safest person in my life, would one day stand on the opposite side. That closeness, that enduring gentleness over 23 years, made the tragedy more painful and haunting in a way Spokane had never seen. And that peace did not last. After giving birth in February 2021 and being abandoned by the baby's father right in the hospital, Kayla tried to rebuild her life but quickly fell into depression. Financial pressure weighed heavily. She worked every job: waitress, warehouse loader, night shifts at a convenience store, but the income still wasn't enough to support her young child. In June 2021, Evan Riker appeared. A 20-year-old with a strong, bold appearance and easygoing talk that made Kayla feel understood. But Evan was unemployed, controlling, and soon became Kayla's only source of comfort, especially on nights she cried from exhaustion. By the end of 2021, Evan began leading Kayla into a dangerous path. At first he suggested she post a few glamorous photos on paid dating sites to make some money. By early 2022, Evan pressured her to meet clients in person, saying just once won't hurt. Kayla reluctantly agreed, but because she wanted enough money to hire a lawyer to regain custody, she went along. Evan whispered whenever Kayla was afraid, "We're doing this for our little girl's future." Linda began noticing unusual signs in spring 2022. Sudden stacks of cash in Kayla's room, unfamiliar, revealing clothes, faint bruises on her arms. One surprise visit in May, Linda saw a strange man walk out of Kayla's room. She froze, but instead of yelling, Linda held back the pain so as not to panic Kayla. She only gently asked, "How are you living, Kayla?" By mid-June, Linda decided she had to intervene strongly. One evening as the two sat in the living room, Linda said directly, "You're destroying your future. You'll lose her forever if you keep going down this path." Linda called Child Protective Services to ask about support processes, intervention programs, even asked police what they could do if Kayla was being coerced. Linda did everything believing she was saving her daughter from the abyss. But to Kayla, those calls were a death knell. Just one official report could mean losing custody forever. Panic gripped her chest, making her choke, feeling cornered with no way out. She began telling herself that Linda doesn't understand anything, doesn't trust me, even wants to ruin my chances. Evan saw the crack clearly and pushed it further. He called Linda selfish, doesn't want Kayla to be happy, then planted the horrifying script in Kayla's head. If she reports to the police, you go to prison, the baby goes to foster care, and I'm dragged down too. On the night of June 28, 2022, the conflict exploded for real. Linda cried, begging Kayla to come back to the family. Kayla screamed that her mother doesn't love me anymore. Linda stepped forward to hug her, but Kayla shoved hard and ran to her room, slamming the door. It was the first time in 23 years they parted in tears. On June 29, at 8:17 p.m., Linda sent her final text. "Tomorrow Mom will call the police. You need to be saved before it's too late." Kayla stared at the phone screen. Evan read the message, stepped close, placed his hand on her back, and said the decisive words, "If she opens her mouth, we lose everything. No turning back now." Kayla sat motionless for a long time, tears falling non-stop, then whispered in despair, "Mom can't be allowed to take my daughter away." And in that very moment, a toxic mix of fear of losing her child, Evan's manipulation, and the feeling of betrayal by the person Kayla loved and trusted most. He knew Linda always trusted Kayla unconditionally, and as long as Kayla asked, she would go anywhere her daughter wanted. So Evan began planning Linda's murder in a cold, calculated way. Deep Creek Trail, right on the edge of Riverside State Park, became the perfect choice. No lights, almost no one around after 11 p.m., sounds easily swallowed by wind and water, and especially the entrance area near residential homes where home cameras typically face the road, not the woods. Evan prepared the weapons like someone who had thought about this too long. A 16-ounce steel hammer, thick nylon cord, 11-centimeter folding knife, plus gloves and trash bags to clean up afterward. Meanwhile, Kayla hung suspended between love and fear. All day she stared at her mother's last message, reading it over and over until the words blurred with tears. Her hands shook so much she dropped the phone, her mouth bitter as if about to vomit. Every time she cried, Evan hugged her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder, whispering, "No one saves us but us." Those words drilled deep into Kayla's mind, making her both weaker and hardened in a twisted way. On the evening of July 1st, 2022, Kayla called Linda with trembling voice. "Mom, I want to talk. I don't want us fighting anymore." Just hearing that, Linda immediately agreed. There was such great hope in her voice that Kayla had to turn away so her mother wouldn't hear her shaky breathing. Evan told Kayla to look completely genuine. He told her to wear the cream-colored jacket Linda had given her for Christmas 2018, saying that just seeing her daughter in her own gift would soften Linda. "Hug Mom," Evan said. "Let her believe you, and once she believes, everything gets easier." His goal was simple: make Linda never suspect her daughter could do the worst. 1:13 a.m. The home security camera captured the moment Kayla stepped out of the car, leaned to lightly kiss her mother's cheek, while Linda stroked her daughter's hair as if all the storms had finally passed. Evan stood a few steps behind, the corner of his mouth curling into a cold smile barely visible in the infrared light. Those were 26 seconds of perfect pretense, and also the 26 seconds that destroyed the false story they planned to build afterward. On the drive to Deep Creek Trail, Kayla tried telling a few jokes to keep things natural. Linda believed her daughter completely, her eyes warm as she said, "Mom just needs you safe, Kayla." Evan stayed silent, hand on the backpack containing the hammer, each slight grip a reminder of what was coming. When the car stopped at the trailhead, Evan finalized the plan, hit Linda from behind with the hammer so she couldn't scream. Kayla had to strangle with the cord until Linda went still. Evan would stab to make sure no one survives. Then they would drag the body deep into the woods and take Linda's wallet and phone to stage a robbery. Kayla nodded, though her eyes held a terrifying emptiness. With that nod, she crossed the point of no return, leaving behind 23 years of mother-daughter love just to chase the fear strangling her heart. 11:46 p.m. Evan stopped the old Ford in front of Linda's apartment in the North Hill area of Spokane. Linda stepped out, face tired but eyes lighting up the moment she saw Kayla. She opened the back door, climbed in and hugged her daughter tightly as if embracing the last warmth of the day. "Mom missed you so much," she whispered, voice trembling slightly with the belief that tonight's talk would mend everything. Kayla froze, shoulders twitching, then hugged back, but the embrace was stiff, half-hearted, as if a storm raged inside her that Linda couldn't see. Evan glanced in the rearview mirror, eyes cold and emotionless. He turned away, gripping the steering wheel hard, veins bulging on his arms. He knew the plan had begun. 1:13 a.m. The home security camera, near the Deep Creek trailhead entrance, recorded the fateful 26 seconds. In the black and white frame, Kayla links arms with her mother, gently pulling as if leading her for a walk. Linda rests her head on her daughter's shoulder, a familiar gesture full of love. Evan stands behind, opens the trunk, pulls out the black backpack containing the steel hammer, nylon cord and folding knife. The three walk into the woods. The last streetlight disappears behind them. 1:18 a.m. The tree canopy blocks the moonlight, darkness covering the forest like thick fog. Linda turns back, asks, "What do you want to talk about with Mom, Kayla?" Her voice genuine, not a hint of suspicion. Evan steps back, pulls out the hammer. The first blow crashes down on the back of Linda's neck with full force. A heavy sound rings out. PCU check, a noise that investigators later described as impossible to forget once heard. Linda collapses to the ground, hands trembling unconsciously, trying to turn her head to look at Kayla. "Kayla?" Her voice distorted, weak. 1:19 a.m. Kayla lunges down, kneels on her mother's back. Evan tosses her the nylon cord. In that moment, Kayla hesitates, but only half a second. She loops the cord around her mother's neck, pulls hard. Linda struggles, reaches up for Kayla, trembling fingers touching her collar but slipping down. Kayla squeezes her eyes shut, pulls harder. Evan presses Linda's shoulders to the ground, her whole body convulsing, gasping breaths turning into ragged wheezes. But Linda is still alive. 1:21 a.m. She surges up one last time, heels scraping rock, feet kicking hard into the dirt to escape. Most victims lose consciousness in 8-15 seconds when strangled, but Linda resisted far longer. Kayla, in a panic mixed with rage, screams, "Why won't you understand?" Evan pulls the knife from the backpack, pushes it into her hand. "Finish it." Kayla hesitates, but when she sees Linda trying to turn her head toward her, tears mixed with blood, Kayla loses control. From 1:22 to 1:24 a.m., she stabs repeatedly into her mother's chest, each thrust sinking deeper into an abyss she can't turn back from. 1, 2, 5, 10 stabs, the knife piercing ribs, tearing lungs, slicing through the trachea until Linda's breaths fade into faint sounds. One long slash from the left cheek down to the jawbone. Blood sprays in dark arcs, splattering Kayla's face and clothes. Linda gasps once, very softly, then goes still. 1:26 a.m. Evan grabs Linda's ankles, drags her across the rocky ground. The sound of the body being pulled over earth rings out grotesquely. Flesh, sharp stones, roots clashing into a sequence investigators described as impossible to mistake for anything else. A long blood trail stretches over 12 meters, mixed with strands of hair, fabric scraps, and damp soil. Kayla stands there trembling, watching Evan drag her mother's body like a trash bag. Then she bends down, uses the very jacket Linda is wearing to wipe the knife, wiping hard so warm blood still soaks into her hand. Blood splatters on her shoes, seeping deep into the stitching. 1:32 to 1:40 a.m. They erase traces. Evan throws Linda's phone into the cold water of the little Spokane River. Blood-soaked gloves are burned with a cheap lighter, but the weak flame causes the nylon cord's plastic to melt and stick to rocks like a small but crucial piece of evidence. They wipe the car with Linda's clothes, thinking they've cleaned everything. But forensics later still finds blood enzymes under the seat cracks and faint blood prints on the door handles. 1:46 a.m. They get in the car. Kayla sobs quietly but doesn't break into full cries, face deathly pale. Evan puts his arm around her shoulder, pulls her close, whispers, "You did the right thing, for our daughter." The car rolls away from Deep Creek trailhead, leaving Linda's battered, disfigured body alone in the forest that once held their most beautiful memories. Now that very place becomes the permanent end of their mother-daughter bond. 6:12 a.m. The Spokane County investigation team arrives at the scene in the area bordering Riverside State Park near Deep Creek trailhead, where Linda Marlowe's body had lain for over 5 hours on the cold ground. From the first observations, investigators immediately recognize 3 distinct types of injuries: skull fractures matching a steel hammer's size, deep, even circular strangulation marks characteristic of nylon cord, and over 22 sharp stab wounds consistent with an approximately 11-centimeter folding knife blade. Near the drag path, they find 2 sets of footprints, size 7, lighter, with many steps around the struggle area, and size 11, deeper, in a straight line along the blood trail. On a broken branch, technicians recover a long brown hair, later identified as Kayla's. The picture of the perpetrators left behind grows clearer. When the Major Crimes Unit collects home cameras, they don't expect much, but that infrared camera from a nearby family home shatters the entire lie Kayla and Evan prepared. The CCTV footage at 1:13 a.m. clearly shows Kayla linking arms with her mother, kissing Linda's cheek, then leading her into the woods, followed by Evan opening the trunk. But when summoned, Kayla and Evan claim they went to a friend's house at 11 p.m. and didn't leave again. That timeline collapses instantly with just 26 seconds of footage. Forensics extends to Evan's Ford. Though cleaned, luminol reaction under the back seat glows blue. Linda's blood, spattered in arc patterns. In Evan's backpack, they find damp soil matching 100% with samples from Deep Creek Trail. The folding knife was washed but still holds microscopic blood in the hinge. Kayla begins crying in her first interrogation, sobbing that her mother slipped and fell down the slope, while Evan coldly insists he wasn't at the park. The investigator simply places the CCTV printout on the table. The room falls completely silent. Evan stares at the photo of Kayla hugging Linda, his face visibly paling. Kayla turns to the wall, shaking violently. That moment marks the first crack in both their stories. Evan breaks first. He drops his head to the table, bursts into tears, and requests a lawyer for a plea deal. After 3 hours of questioning, Evan confesses everything: the plan, the weapons, the route, even describing exactly where Kayla strangled her mother. He states, she, Kayla herself, is the one who stabbed. This matches the blood spatter angles, stab positions, and wound trajectories confirmed by forensics. Then it's Kayla's turn. When investigators play the CCTV again, the moment she kisses her mother's cheek before leading her into the woods, Kayla lets out a hoarse scream, slams the table, repeating, "I was just afraid Mom would take my daughter away. I was just afraid of losing her." She admits Linda threatened to call police, admits panic over CPS taking custody, admits Evan said if we don't act we lose everything. Her final confession comes when Kayla says herself, "I didn't want Mom to die, but I didn't know any other way." The trial takes place 4 months later, drawing media attention for weeks. The prosecutor opens with words that silence the courtroom. Killing the person who gave birth to you is a crime, but killing the mother who spent her entire life protecting you, there is no colder crime than that. They present the full CCTV, forensics from the scene, photos of blood in the car, DNA results from Kayla's hair on the branch. The jury takes only 3 hours to reach a verdict. Kayla is sentenced to 40 years for first-degree murder, with aggravating factors for killing a direct relative. Evan receives 15 years as the principal accomplice, for confessing after the crime but not aiding the victim. When the sentence is read, Kayla curls up, hands over her head, muttering, "Mom, I'm sorry," but Linda is no longer there to hear. All that remains is the gavel's echo in the cold room, closing the investigation of a case where the truth was laid bare. After the sentencing, the courtroom falls silent, as if all the air has been sucked out. Linda's family is shattered. Friends who worked with her for over 10 years at Providence Holy Family Hospital hug and cry in the hallway, unable to comprehend how a devoted mother like Linda could be killed by the daughter she loved most. Cloverleaf neighbors, those who once saw the mother and daughter walking together every afternoon, gather in small groups on front porches, shaking their heads in shock. "It can't be Kayla," they say. Those two were so close, but the truth leaves no room for denial. Kayla's daughter, the child Linda once held, picked up, cared for, is now placed in foster care, her future as uncertain as a blank page caught in the wind. In the Spokane County Jail, Kayla sits writing her first letters after the trial. Her handwriting trembles, ink smudged in places. "I was just afraid of losing her. I didn't think about losing Mom." A simple sentence, holding a level of devastation she herself couldn't face at the time of the crime. Evan, interviewed in his separate unit, looks down at his hands and says, "I destroyed 2 lives and dragged Kayla down with me." He doesn't cry, but his voice is full of emptiness. The emptiness of someone who finally understands what he caused but can't turn back time. News of the case spreads throughout Spokane, creating an unprecedented community shock. Many women send emails and messages to police and nonprofits sharing experiences of being manipulated by partners, pushed into psychological violence until losing themselves. Spokane police partner with local organizations to launch campaigns, raising awareness about psychological manipulation in relationships, about a new kind of domestic violence, one that leaves no visible bruises but can kill a life. From the Linda Marlowe case, they aim to warn that the danger to you is sometimes not a stranger in the dark, but the person holding your hand every day. The lesson from this tragedy is heavy but necessary. Blind love combined with manipulation can turn good people into killers. The fear of losing her child blinded Kayla to seeing her mother as the safest place, the only one who ever stood between her and the chaotic world outside. And the CCTV, a lifeless device meant only to watch cars and doors, became the only witness that truly knew what happened between mother and daughter in those final seconds. Sometimes, just one short moment is enough to speak the truth. The dead cannot tell. And when all the facts are closed, the case's conclusion still haunts the entire city. The camera only recorded 26 seconds, but those 26 seconds exposed what Kayla and Evan believed they could bury forever and gave Linda Marlowe back her voice. Thank you for following the story. If you found it gripping, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next cases. See you again in other haunting journeys, uncovering the truth.